Alright, so how many of you know, or have an estimate of how many bones are in the skull?
How am I supposed to tell you?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you're right, it's 22. So, I'm going to be going over today all the different bones in the skull, and there's two major portions. And my friend Bob here is going to help me. So the first major portion is the cranium. It mainly makes up kind of the top of your head all the way down to here. So just imagine like a circle here. I'll have a picture in a second for those of you it's hard to see. And then the next area is the facial bones, which is kind of, the name implies, it's just the face of the skull. So the first bone of the cranium, picture. So yeah, I've got a little box there. So mainly all the bones are in that little box, except there's one bone that you can't really highlight because it's behind the nose. Okay. And then facial bones, like I said, is just all the bones in the face. The bones in the face are a lot smaller, so obviously it's a smaller area. So in the cranium, there's 8 bones total. 2 of them are pairs. The first bone is the frontal bone, which it's probably hard for you guys to see back there, but there's these little lines called sutures. And basically that's just when you were growing as a baby, the 2 bones fuse together, and that's how these bones are separated. So the frontal bone is just your forehead, it's all the way right here. Next bone is the parietal bone, and that's like the top side of your head. It's not all the way down here, but it's like above here. Just imagine above this little ridge line to the center, and that's a pair, so there's another one on the other side. Next is the temporal bone, which is below the parietal bone. It's down here. It's basically like right above your ears, kind of. Next is the occipital bone, which is just the back of your head. So it starts down here, and it goes all the way down to where your spinal cord is. So, sphenoid bone. This one's kind of hard to see. It's small. It's kind of like an evil bat-shaped bone, if you look at it without actually being in the skull. The only part you can really see is this part right here. And then if I open up the skull, you can kind of see a face there. Maybe you can, but people in the back can't. It's like a little evil bat face. That's how I remembered it for my tests. Next is the ethmoid bone. This one is the one I was talking about. It's like behind the nose. It's really hard to see, but if you look down in the eye sockets, like in the very back, it's back there. This bone actually, they think it used to help. You know how birds have like the magnetic navigation? They think humans used to have the same thing, and they think this bone played a role in that. And that's according to Robin Baker, January 6, 1983. So next I'll move to the next major area of the skull. The facial bones. So there's 14 bones in total, 6 of them are pairs. The first one is the mandible, and it's just the bottom part of your jaw. So that's what you use for crunching. Next is the maxilla. It's a pair, so it's like your upper jaw, and then it goes up to like the bottom of your eye sockets, and then it's symmetric on each side. The lacrimal bone is this little tiny bone right here, like the side of your nose, and it's got these little ducts in them. They're for when you cry, tear ducts, so like your eyes don't get fogged up with water. The palatine bone is, you probably heard of the soft palate and the hard palate. There's the soft palate and the hard palate. The soft palate is like the front of your mouth, and the very back of the roof of your mouth is the hard palate, and that's what's known as the palatine bone. It goes up to the bottom of your, it actually starts at the bottom of your mouth and goes all the way up to the top of your eye socket, so it's a pretty long bone. Next is the zygomatic bone, which is this arch shape you see here. Is what connects the maxilla with the temporal bone. The nasal bone, if you feel your nose, there's like the cartilage here, and then right above that you'll feel 2 hard parts. And there's 2 little tiny bones there, and those are called the nasal bones, and they help support your nose. The vomer is this little tiny slit right here inside your nose. It's like a perpendicular plane almost. They think, they don't really know for sure, but they think it plays a role in how you sense pheromones. And as according to Pearson Custom Library for Anatomy and Physiology, 2014. The last bone of the facial bones is the concave. It's two little bone-like scrolls. Well, actually, there's more than two, but they're like pairs. And they're like these little holes inside the nasal cavity. And basically they help regulate airflow. And also they have special sensors in them so they can sense the temperature outside, the moisture, and they adjust the airflow according to that. There's a little picture there for people who couldn't really see the skull there in the back. So you see the bottom of the jaw is the mandible. Next is the maxilla, which is the orange area. The vomer is that little slit, and then nose, nasal bone, like I said, the two little bones. That's probably the easiest one for you to actually tell where it's at, because you can feel it if you just feel the top of your nose. Zygomatic bone is a light blue color on the side. The palatine bone, you can see how it's they have the arrow pointing to the bottom of the eye socket, but it's just this little tiny dot. But it actually, in that side of the skull, goes all the way down to the roof of your mouth. The lacrimal bone is a little green bone on the side of your eye socket. You can't see the little holes in there, but if you want to look at my skull, you can see the little indentations for the tear ducts. And then temporal bone, like I said, it's on the side. Frontal bone's your forehead. Parietal bone's on the side. You can't see the orbital bone in this picture because it's just a front picture. There's not one picture where you can see all the bones at once. So in conclusion, the skull is broken into two major areas, the cranium and the facial bones. The cranium has 8 bones with 2 pairs in there, and then the facial bones has 14 bones with 6 pairs. So there's 22 total bones, but 16 of those are pairs. So there's only 14 different types of bones.